There are stories so powerful, so deeply entrenched in the fabric of history, that their echoes never truly fade. But among them, one empire stands alone, a force so unstoppable, it seemed less like a kingdom and more like an act of divine will: the Mongol Empire. It rose from the barren steppes of Mongolia like a storm conjured from nothing, its warriors moving like shadows across the lands, subjugating entire civilizations in mere days. No fortress was impregnable, no king untouchable. And yet, just as swiftly as it ascended, this empire collapsed into ruin, leaving behind more questions than answers. Was it merely the work of mortal men, or was there something more, an unseen force guiding their rise and ensuring their inevitable fall? History, as told by the victors, is often incomplete. What they do not tell you is that the Mongols were more than conquerors. They were the keepers of an ancient secret, one that had been lost and rediscovered many times in the annals of human civilization. A truth that allowed them to harness an unstoppable power, but one that also carried a terrible price. Some say Genghis Khan was not just a warlord but a figure of prophecy, his birth foretold in whispers by shamans who claimed he was chosen by Tengri, the eternal sky. Others speak of the mystical symbols etched into the armor of his greatest warriors, sigils of an ancient wisdom that allowed them to fight beyond the limits of ordinary men. And then there are the darker tales, the stories of an empire that struck a forbidden balance between order and chaos, between creation and destruction, a force too great for even the Mongols themselves to control. What was this power? Where did it come from? And why did it vanish as suddenly as it appeared? Tonight, we unveil the untold truth of the Mongol Empire, its secrets, its mysteries, and the forces that shaped its destiny. What you are about to hear is not the history taught in textbooks, but the whispers of the past, hidden in the shadows of forgotten scrolls and long-buried ruins. The truth is never lost, only waiting to be found. Long before the Mongol Empire, before the name Genghis Khan became synonymous with conquest, there were the nomads, tribes that moved like the wind, unbound by walls, unrestricted by borders. To them, the land was not a possession, but a living entity, an extension of the eternal sky, Tengri, the great cosmic force that governed all. For these people, the world was divided not by nations, but by energies, forces that ebbed and flowed like rivers through the fabric of existence. To rule, one had to be in harmony with these forces. To conquer, one had to command them. This was the secret wisdom of the steppes, the unseen balance between chaos and order, destruction and creation. It was not just a philosophy, but a way of life. From birth, Mongols were trained to live in accordance with these sacred principles. Their warriors fought not just with skill, but with an awareness of unseen currents, a spiritual connection to the land, the sky, and the spirits that roamed between. This was no ordinary military force. This was something far older, something rooted in the primordial past. When Genghis Khan emerged from obscurity, uniting the warring tribes under a single banner, it was not through brute force alone. It was destiny, an event foretold in the sacred practices of Mongol shamans, who had long awaited the one who would ride with the blessing of the heavens. Tengri's chosen, the man who would break the world and remake it in his image. But the balance the Mongols understood so well came at a cost. Every rise must have a fall. Every conquest must awaken forces that had long been dormant. As the Mongols expanded, swallowing entire civilizations, the equilibrium of the world began to shift. The more they conquered, the closer they came to something that even they did not fully understand, something that had been waiting, watching, beyond the veil of time. And so the question must be asked: did the Mongols shape their own fate, or was there another hand guiding them, one unseen, unfathomable, orchestrating their rise so that their fall would be even more profound? The rise of the Mongol Empire was not merely a military conquest. It was an event of almost supernatural inevitability. It was as if an invisible force guided the hands of these nomadic warriors, shaping history with a precision that defied chance. But to understand how, we must unravel the secret mechanisms behind their success. Methods so profound, they blurred the line between strategy and sorcery. The Mongols mastered what no civilization before them had fully grasped: the power of fluidity. Where other empires built walls, the Mongols became the wind. Their armies moved like a force of nature, striking with precision and vanishing before the enemy could comprehend what had happened. But this was not just superior warfare. It was a deeper understanding of the principles that governed existence. Central to their philosophy was the idea of Kak Tengri, the eternal blue sky. The Mongols did not see themselves as conquerors in the traditional sense. They were the extension of a cosmic will, the enforcers of a celestial order that had been broken by the decadence of settled civilizations. They did not simply destroy cities, they purified them, returning the world to its natural state, one of movement, hardship, and survival. But there was something else, something even more unsettling about their rise. Genghis Khan was not just a military genius, he was a man of prophecy. His birth was marked by strange omens, a blood clot in his hand, a sign that he had been chosen for greatness. His presence was said to bend fate itself. Those who opposed him often found their own allies turning against them, as if the very threads of destiny wove themselves in his favor. Even his generals, some of the greatest strategists in history, swore that he possessed an uncanny ability to see beyond the present moment. He anticipated moves that had not yet been made, countered threats before they could manifest. Was this merely intuition, or had the Mongols tapped into something more, something hidden, something forbidden? There are whispers in history, legends too obscure to be verified, too chilling to be ignored. Some claim that deep within the Mongol ranks, there were those who did not merely follow orders, but followed something else. That certain figures in their army were not men at all, but vessels for ancient forces that had long waited to be unleashed upon the world. What if the Mongols did not merely conquer with steel and fire? What if they understood something about reality itself, something that allowed them to move unseen, strike with impossible precision, and shatter the will of even the most powerful empires? The rise of the Mongols was not a fluke of history. It was an event orchestrated by forces we are only beginning to comprehend. And yet, with every force that rises, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For even the greatest conquerors cannot escape the final, inescapable truth. Every empire must eventually kneel before something greater than itself. But if the rise of the Mongols was guided by unseen forces, then what brought about their fall? How could an empire that spanned continents, that struck fear into the hearts of kings and emperors, unravel so completely? Some say it was betrayal, others claim it was overexpansion. But there are darker whispers, suggestions that something even greater was at play. To understand their downfall, we must first examine what the Mongols truly sought. History paints them as conquerors, but in truth, they were seekers of knowledge. Unlike the empires they crushed, they did not cling to a single ideology or faith. They absorbed wisdom from every culture they encountered, gathering texts, scholars, and mystics into their ranks. Some believe the Mongols were searching for something, an ultimate truth that had been hidden, buried beneath centuries of human civilization. Perhaps it was a lost key to power beyond war. Perhaps it was a secret so dangerous that even they could not control it. Because at the peak of their might, when it seemed nothing could stop them, the Mongols began to falter. The empire began to fracture, not from external enemies, but from within. Great leaders died suddenly, their bodies failing them without reason. Once unbreakable alliances crumbled as if guided by an unseen hand. Even the great city of Karakoram, built as the beating heart of Mongol supremacy, fell into ruin. What had once been an unstoppable force now turned on itself, as if something had poisoned the very foundation of their strength. Many assume this was merely the natural decay of an empire stretched too thin, but others suspect something far stranger. What if the Mongols had uncovered a truth they were never meant to find? What if their success was tied to forces that had granted them power, but demanded something in return? There are stories that history refuses to acknowledge. They speak of leaders who began to see things that weren't there. Visions of shadowy figures watching from the edges of battlefields, whispers in forgotten languages filling their ears at night, an unshakable feeling that they were no longer the hunters, but the hunted. The great empire that had once thrived on movement, on adaptability, became stagnant. Their conquests slowed, their unity shattered. The descendants of Genghis Khan turned against one another, fighting not against enemies, but against their own fates. And then, almost as swiftly as they had risen, they were gone. The greatest empire the world had ever seen faded into memory. Their cities abandoned, their legacy reduced to echoes in the wind. But perhaps the greatest mystery is not why they fell, but what they left behind. Because the Mongols did not just conquer. They buried secrets, hid knowledge within the folds of history, waiting for those bold enough to uncover it. Even now, legends speak of lost artifacts, forbidden texts, and hidden temples that hold the last remnants of Mongol knowledge. They say that those who find them are never the same again, that some things were meant to remain forgotten. The Mongol Empire was never just about war. It was about something far greater, something we may never fully understand. And perhaps that is for the best. The Mongol Empire was not merely an army of conquerors. It was a force of nature, a storm that swept across the world, leaving civilizations trembling in its wake. Yet, as with all storms, it passed. The question is not just why it fell, but whether its fall was inevitable. Was it the weight of its own ambition, the unrelenting hunger that drove it forward until there was nothing left to devour? Or was there something more, a hidden force that had granted them their rise, only to demand their downfall? Even now, their legacy lingers in the shadows of history. The secrets they unearthed, the knowledge they gathered, it did not simply vanish. It waits, hidden in the ruins of lost cities, locked within forgotten manuscripts, whispered through the winds of the steppes. Some believe that the Mongols' true power lay not in their swords, but in what they discovered. That in their relentless pursuit of knowledge, they reached into something far older, far greater than empires and kings. And what if they never truly disappeared? What if their knowledge, their hidden truths, were simply passed down in ways unseen? Secret orders, whispered teachings, symbols embedded in cultures that never even knew their origins. What if their fall was not an end, but a transformation? History tells us that the Mongol Empire is gone. But history, as we know, is written by those who wish to keep the truth buried. Perhaps the real legacy of the Mongols is not in the ruins of their cities or the echoes of their battles, but in the hidden knowledge that still shapes our world today. The past is never truly past. The Mongols rode once before, and who is to say they will not ride again?